When you enlist and join in the Air Force, you go to boot camp. And when you go to boot camp, they randomly put you into groups. And those groups basically do everything together. And most of the time, it's a lot of physical work along with the mental and the classroom and work and everything that's being done. When they do the physical work, they measure the teams and how the teams do in those physical activities. Now, these groups are randomly selected, not finding people that are going to be better than others or anything like that. And when they put those groups together, they find that some groups perform far superior than some of the other groups. So the Air Force wanted to find out why. Why is it if we randomly select people from all over the country, all 50 states, we put them in a situation where they have to perform physical activity, and there's obviously ways to measure who can do up more pull-ups or push-ups within the group, and some people can do less than others. Why is it that one group will perform far superior than other groups? And what they found was this. They found that the motivation level and the positive attitude of the weakest person in the group made that group the strongest or stronger. The groups that performed poorly actually didn't have the weaker physical person. They actually had the worst attitude person and the worst teammate. Go to switch it here. The U.S. Navy SEALs. Many people will say that Navy SEAL training is the hardest training available. This is down in San Diego. And what you see there is a group of 7 men. Women could be on the boat as well. And they're performing all sorts of crazy stuff in the sand and the water. And they run these tests. And these 7 individuals will be together as they perform all these tests. Now, again, these groups are put together randomly when they put them together. And when they're random, they find that one boat will always outperform the other boats. And they don't know why. So what the Navy did was they wanted to experiment. So what they decided to do, because there's 6 Navy SEALs along with 1 team leader in each boat, they switched out the leader from the winning boat and they put him in one of the losing boats. And soon the losing boat began to win. Nothing changed other than who was leading that boat. So leadership is obviously also very important. So I just wanted to introduce myself. I know Kevin introduced me, but I'm going to introduce myself and tell you a little bit about myself before I get into the presentation. My name is Robert Grove, Coach Robert Grove, and I coach at Vista Del Lago High School in Folsom, California. We're the other high school. We're not the football high school. We're the cross-country high school. And I've been there in this wood. I don't even know how to count because I know we lost track season, but this will be my 12th year at Vista Del Lago. And there's a couple of pictures of me. One was just a couple of years ago while I was running at Mission San Jose. And I feel honored that Chuck put Mission San Jose as one of those schools that may have won the most NCS championships. Mission San Jose, back in the 70s, early 80s, was a perennial powerhouse. We did not have state back then, but we had NorCals. We won NorCal. Last year, I think, was my sophomore year. That's me running at Coyote Hills. Some of you in the Bay Area may know where Coyote Hills is. That's where we had our league championships. And then on the other side there, that's me most recent, running for the Hoka Aggie Running Club. I still love to go out there and compete. And just like you, I love to challenge myself. And just like Coach Harris said, you're going to be able to run for a lot of years. It's not just something that you do right now, but it's something you can continue to do. And this was kind of a pinnacle for us to this point. This was 2018. We were blessed and honored, and everything kind of came together with this team. And this is a team that became the very first state champion of anything for Vista Del Lago and any sport. It was the girls team from 2018. I look at that picture and we have 1 athlete still remaining, but we carry on a tradition of team and leadership, and we're going to kind of talk about that. But that was our state championship. We've had 8 out of the last 10 individual champions on the girls' side as section champions. And then last year we had the honor of having an individual champion at the state meet, our first individual state champion in cross country who went on to compete at the Nike Nationals, Alex Klos. So when Chuck and Kevin reached out to me, and they said, "Hey, are you interested in speaking?" And I didn't know I was going to be the closer. I think it's a lot of pressure, but I thought, what am I going to talk about? So I talked to Chuck and I said, "Look, Chuck, I thought that talking about the Bachelorette and all the things that a cross-country runner could learn from the Bachelorette went over pretty well. And with the pandemic, I've been binge watching 90 Day Fiance. So my thought was, what can we teach the athletes that I learned from 90 Day Fiance?" And I was basically shunned and said, "No, Coach Grove, you're going to talk about teamwork and leadership." So that's what I'm going to talk about. So what we have here is just a picture of a team. You're all doing that. You all have a different picture of what your team looks like. You have some of you that are new into cross country may have a completely different picture of what a team should look like. But I'd just like to point out just a few things. We talked about the Navy SEALs earlier, Navy SEAL training. And the Navy SEALs define teamwork maybe in the most simple sense. And it's this simple, and you don't have to overcomplicate it, but we will go through it, of what is teamwork and what is being a team member. And the Navy SEALs define teamwork as selfless acts towards a common goal. So let that sink in for a second. Selfless acts towards a common goal. So kind of what does that mean? And how does that relate to your cross-country team or things you're going to do later in life? So let's just take selfless, for example. It's inconvenience, personal discomfort, or personal agendas have no role on a team. So inconvenience, personal discomfort, or personal agendas have no role on a team. When I look back at some of the best teams that we've had and some of the best athletes that we've had that are teammates, they were very selfless. They didn't think about themselves. They thought about the team first. And there's a lot of things that you can kind of put in your goals of like running. I want to be at this place. I want to take top 10 in my league meet. I want to be all league as a person. But do those acts, are those selfless or are they selfish? Are you thinking about your team or are you thinking about you as an individual? So make sure that when you're thinking about becoming a teammate, that the things that you're thinking about are selfless, or thinking about others. Now, acts. Acts is pretty simple. Actions speak louder than words. And I don't think that that needs a whole lot of explanation, because acts is doing. You can say a lot of things. At the end of a season, I like to talk to the team. Sometimes I talk to a lot of the individuals. I talk to the team captains. How are we going to lay out the goals for the following year? And it never fails that people will tell me, or athletes will tell me, next year I'm going to, over the summer, I'm going to put in X amount of miles. I'm going to do all those little things that we talked about, that I want to make the team better. And then I look at their logs and they may not be doing it. Or I'm asking their teammates, "Hey, have you seen so-and-so out at the runs? Or have you seen them out running?" And they're not doing it. See, in order to be a good teammate, you have to make sure that you are actually doing the things that make you better, not just those, words. So if I claim to be selfless, but rarely act selfishly, claim to be working towards a common goal as my team, yet my actions do not move my team closer to the goal, I am a hypocrite and not worthy to be a team member. Now that's a quote from a Navy SEAL when he's talking about what those actions are. And so I want to kind of talk about acts, because this whole week, you've seen Kevin Searles, you've seen Chuck Woolridge, and how much they've given up. I mean, they're not getting paid to do this. And so you think about, why has Kevin been, because I think he told you at the beginning of this week, he's been the president of our running club for 17 years. And why is he the president of the running club for 17 years? And it's not just because nobody else wants the job, but there he is. And that's the morning of Beta Breakers. And Kevin's down there making sure everybody's got their numbers before they head out into the centipedes, because they run the centipede Kaiser. Guys are tied up together, girls are tied up together. They race these other centipedes at Beta Breakers. And that's Kevin's way of giving back to the team right now. His fastest days, maybe, behind him like a lot of us, but he's giving those acts just like he does at camp. And if you've been to camp, you've seen him in the mornings ringing his bell every morning. Every morning, I think for years that I've gone to camp in person, I think this is the morning Kevin slept in. He overslept the alarm. And it just means that our dorm is down the road. So his acts and his actions show a lot of a leader. So I know this, I am the closer, but I want to make sure that we thank Kevin for all that he's done and thank Chuck for all that he has done as well this week. So towards is and I pulled this from the dictionary. Towards is in direction or vicinity of, with regards to, as a contribution or help to. So if you're going to be a team member and you're going to be part of a team, you're going to be working towards something. You just don't show up to practice every day. And we've seen those athletes, they show up because they want to hang out with their friends. But you show up to practice every day with a purpose. And that purpose is, we have defined what our goal is. And we're going to talk about those things later and what leaders can do, et cetera. But you're going to go towards something. Now, it's going to vary per team. I mean, some teams may not have 5 super strong runners that they're going to be at, the top of the league or the top of the section, or even make it to the state meet. But you can always work towards getting better. And if you are working towards getting better as individuals and with your team, then you're a good team member. Once you split off the direction of what that team is working for, it's not going towards something anymore. Now you've splintered off. You've taken away from what that team is trying to do. So make sure that you're working towards something in the same line that your team wants you to. So this is basically a quote from a Navy SEAL where it says, if I'm not working towards something specific, I am filling a spot on the team that should be occupied by a person who is driven to move the team forward. Now, I watched a great video of the late Kobe Bryant recently on YouTube. And Kobe Bryant was an amazing player. Now, I'm a Sacramento Kings fan, so to say that hurts me deep to the soul. The Lakers took away what I thought should have been a pretty nice championship run a couple of times from the Sacramento Kings. But Kobe Bryant cannot deny that he was one of the greatest players that ever lived. But he was also a great team leader. And Kobe talked about when Phil Jackson was there and they went through this resurgence to try to become champions again. He said they had players on the team that were not willing to do the little things. They did not expect that perfection or that excellence from themselves. And he said, until we got rid of those players and brought in players that had that mindset, then we began to win championships again. You have to have that common mindset working towards that goal. And if you're going to hold that team back, that's not going to help the team. So think about that. So the common goal, that's kind of the essence of what being a great teammate means. And I'm going to talk in a second about goals and how things maybe are different now and maybe how you should look at your goals as a runner. But really, you have to have that common thread, that common theme that you're all working towards, whatever that is. And I would highly suggest that you communicate that with your coach. I know that your runners, you guys, your athletes, you go out there in your groups and you're running together and you're talking about stuff that you want to do. It can't be for the coach to decide, hey guys, I think this year you guys can win the section meet. I think this year you guys can be top 10 at state, because that doesn't mean anything. It has to come from within you. So when your team gets together and you have those meetings and you have those conversations about where are we going to go and what is that thing that we want to do, now you've all bonded and you've all agreed upon where you're going to go. It's an agreement. It's not something that's been laid out for you, but it's an agreement. And that agreement has to be common, and you will work towards that together. So make sure that when you do that, it's common amongst all of you. All right. So when a common goal is laid out, the Navy SEAL does not care whether they are the one who gets the hostage. No role is more glamorous or important than the rest. And I think when you look at a team where it's 1 through 7, or quite frankly, 1 through the bottom, on a guy's team, girls team, it doesn't matter. No one person on that team is more important than anybody else. Just because somebody is either in the top 5, winning a race, top 10, getting a low score, that low stick on the team, yeah, they're important. But it's not as important as everybody having that common goal. Remember when I went back to the Air Force example? In the Air Force example, the team's performance was based on the lowest common denominator, that lowest, weakest performer. And that can be the same thing on your cross-country team. If you are one of the, by time clock, slowest on the team, but you have a great attitude and you're positive and you're encouraging, that's going to help your entire team move forward. Okay. So you have to think about, what are your team goals? And that's a challenging question right now, because we're in a time right now where that's a very difficult thing. And that's why I think I led with team and then went into leadership, because I really want to talk about leadership and what leadership is and how leadership is really going to affect the way that you and your team dynamic move forward. Leadership is not a rank at all. And it was just this morning, some of us coaches that are on this call or on this Zoom belong to a group on Facebook, and it's called the Cross Country Coaches Network. And just this morning, after I'd put this whole thing together and about ready to do this tonight, a coach got on there and said they couldn't believe that one of their athletes was really upset that they were not named captain. And they basically kind of checked out. And there was at that point about 40 or 42 comments from other coaches about all the things that, they can do now. And, they weren't named captain. And that's one of the things that as a coach, I absolutely hate naming. I have named captains that probably shouldn't have been captains because they weren't true leaders. And I have had people that were in leadership, took a leadership role on the team that were not named captain. So it's not a rank. If you decide as an individual, if you decide to look after the person on your left and the person on your right, you're a leader. And so I want you to think about that. If you're all standing, your whole team's lined up and you're 6 feet apart, you're wearing masks because you got to be socially responsible right now. And you look to your right and you look to your left and you say, I'm going to take care of those people. And if everybody on your team did that, everybody down the line, you have a team of leaders. And when you have a team of leaders and everybody is leading, that will lift up the entire team. And so I want to talk about that for the rest of this presentation, because right now, that leadership that each one of you can provide to your team and to your teammates has never been more important, okay? It is a fact that right now people are hurting, and we're gonna go into that as well. People are hurting, they need connection, they need people to know that they care. And so all of you, each one of you can take this with you away from this tonight and become better. So what makes a good leader? Okay, since all of you can become leaders of your team, what makes a good leader? A good leader takes accountability and not just credit. And I want to take this away from the running scene for a second. I want you to think about what's happening in the world right now. There's a lot of finger pointing and there's a lot of blaming going on, but it doesn't seem that anybody's taking any accountability. And so you have to tune all that out, right? I've even said recently, the best thing that I can do for my mental state is probably turn off the news, because the news, all it does is it feeds itself and it feeds their pocketbooks on being super negative, pointing fingers. They're wrong, they're wrong, they're wrong. Everybody's wrong. Nobody's taking accountability. So take a step back. As a leader of myself, as a leader on the team around me, the people around me, I can take accountability. If I'm not doing something right, if I haven't been a good friend to somebody, if I haven't been a good teammate to somebody, take that accountability tonight and move forward, okay? Being a leader doesn't mean just taking the credit when things are going good. I could easily, as a coach, stand up there and say, you know what, I am a great coach. We won the state meet, but that's not necessarily, we didn't win state last year as a team. I know we moved up a division, but we didn't win. I take accountability for the things that we could have done better. And every good coach, every good athlete, every good leader is going to do that. So make sure that you're not just taking credit when things are going good, but don't be afraid to be accountable when things aren't. So what is leadership? To lead means you have a very clear vision of a world that does not exist. Now, this is bigger than just running, but I want you to take it for what it's saying, but also you can take it back into running. But leading means having a clear vision of a world that does not exist. And you've all heard some pretty inspiring talks before when people talk about what could be done, how things could be better. A good leader has a very clear vision of what that looks like. And a leader will clearly articulate that cause over and over again. That leader will clearly inspire people who want that vision as well. And they want to see that world built. And they want to join that leader and go with them to that place, okay? So when you think about it in terms of running, what does that mean? I mean, a leader says, I can see us doing X. I can see us being whatever that is. And they articulate that over and over. There's no doubt, there's no belief. I see it clearly. And that's vision. We talked about visualization in some of the other presentations. It's being very clear about those things, seeing it in your mind, and taking people with you. No doubts. It's going to happen. It's very clear that it's going to happen. So you just kind of move forward in that direction. Okay. But one of the things that we also have to understand is that in order to be a good leader, we have to have certain qualities. And those certain qualities can be a number of things, but really kind of boils down into two things. You have to have empathy and you have to have perspective. A good leader has to be able to empathize and have perspective of other people and what they're going through. And just an example, there's a lot of times that in the working world, for example, and I'll use the sports world, but in the working world, if you're good at sales, what do? They promote you. You sell a lot of stuff. You're a real good salesman. They promote you to what? Sales manager. And they say to that sales manager, you know what? I want you to lead these people now. Think in the world of sports. Just because somebody was a great football player, a great basketball player, or for that matter, just because somebody was a great runner, does not mean that they're going to be a good coach or a good leader, because you have to have empathy and perspective. But if you don't empathize with people, have that empathy for people, you're not going to be able to help them. And an example of the top athlete, Michael Jordan probably is arguably better than Kobe Bryant. I can't see what people are thinking, but if Michael Jordan was the best player in basketball, why wasn't he or ever become a coach? He probably, because he was such a great player, he expected so much from other people that he did not understand if he was to coach them, why would they not want to work as hard as me? Why did they not want to have that same mentality as me? Why do they not see things exactly that I see it? I'm not going to coach. He probably never pursued coaching simply because he knew he could not have empathy for those players that didn't think or see things or do things the way that he did. But a good leader has empathy. And a good leader can put things in perspective based on a number of things. So leadership is not about being in charge. Leadership is about taking care of the people that you are in charge of. And so if you're all leaders and you're all in charge of all the rest of your teammates or the people that are around you on your team, think about that. What does that mean? Taking care of somebody isn't about ordering them. Hey, you need to get out there on that run. 7 a.m., we're going to be heading out for a run. You've got to go, or else, you got to lay that hammer down. It's basically taking care of them. And so you have to ask the question. A good leader asks the question, and a good person asks the question to somebody, how you doing today? And mean it. How can I help you today? And listen. Because far too many times, and I'm sure you've all seen it, you've gone to somebody or they said to you, hey, how you doing today? And you say, I haven't had a good day. And they, I got to get going, or they not listen to you. They kind of just ignore what you're saying. And it kind of puts you like, you're not going to come out again. You're not going to talk to them again, or you're not going to really open up about what you're really going through. And so a good leader asks those questions, and a good leader checks in with the people around them in a caring way and when it really wants to know the answers. So perspective comes down to STIE, and we're going to break down what that is. And the first S actually was a P for parenting, but parents might be seeing this, so I'm not going to go there. But we're going to talk about society. Okay, so if you have a perspective about the society that we're in, and this might be a little bit politically incorrect, but we live in a kind of a filtered world right now. Everything is perfect. Everybody gets a trophy. Everybody's told how great they are. You lack that ability to kind of cope when things don't go well. We hear in the business world, I'm not a teacher, but I'm in the business world. We hear in the business world about the millennial generation now. They're not good employees. Well, did they grow up in a time where everybody told them that they were great? Then they went and got their first job and they had their first review and they weren't told how great they were, and they didn't get that raise right away, and they didn't know how to cope with those things. So understand that society plays a role in everything that's going on with your teammates, the things that they're going through. And you have to ask that question of your teammate, what are you going through in life in order to help them? Now, technology. Now, this is something that is, Kevin isn't very good at technology with cell phones, which is fine. But I want to talk about what technology has done. We didn't grow up with it like you did. We had a phone, and the phone was tied up to a long cord. So when somebody called, they didn't text. You had to like go answer the family phone. And if your brother or sister was on the phone, nobody could get through. It was like an awesome thing when call waiting came through, because you'd hear a beep and you could hear like another call, but you didn't have like a text. Technology, texting promotes dopamine. And what is dopamine? Now, I'm not a scientist and I'm not a science teacher, but dopamine is a neurotransmitter. It's a chemical brain messenger that kind of links how we feel motivated to things. It is sometimes incorrectly called a pleasure chemical. And what's really scary about that is dopamine is created by things like alcohol, drugs, certain bad foods that maybe, don't help you, sugar, that type of thing. But they're actually finding that receiving a text creates dopamine in the brain. It creates that pleasure feeling in the brain. And we seek it. You guys are seeking it. You're doing it by sending out mass texts to multiple people all at once just to see who's going to get back to you. You go on Instagram and you take that picture, mostly of yourself, and I'll talk about that in a second. You take that picture of yourself and then you keep going back to see how many people have liked it. You TikTok things and then you see how many people have talked it. I don't even know what you guys do on TikTok to get a like or something or a follow or anything. But that technology is affecting your ability to connect with people and have that deeper connection, because you're not going to have that deep connection over technology. You're not going to be able to have that feeling of what somebody really feels by sending them a text. What's up? Fine. Get that a lot. It's like the common answer sometimes from younger people. Technology is so bad that if people are holding a phone in their hand when they're talking to you, they actually find that the person that's talking to that person or sees somebody holding that phone feels like, oh, they're not paying attention to me because they're holding the phone. Because we all expect people that are holding the phone. It's like, you're not that important to me. I might get a better text here in a second. I may not be talking to you. So that technology is holding you back. I've asked my captains on our team, we do name captains, I hope they act as leaders. I've asked them to check in with athletes on the team. And I hope that they're not just texting, and maybe at least after tonight, they're just not texting, hey, what's up? I hope they're reaching out. And I know in this world right now that we live in, it's very difficult. But if you actually call somebody, and if you receive a call, that means your teammates may be checking on you, answer that phone. Answer that phone. Make that phone call and talk to somebody, okay? Really reach out, go deep beyond that technology. And I'm also going to give you another challenge when it comes to technology. We all spend a lot of time. When I say we, I'm just as guilty. You take the selfie, you post it on Facebook, my age Facebook, your age Instagram, maybe Snapchat, something that's going quick. It's a lot of times of yourself. And I'd love it for the next 7 days if each one of you turn that camera around. Instead of having that thing turning on you and taking pictures of all the things that you're doing, I don't want to do those poses. You turn the camera around and you start commenting on the things that are around you. If you're out for an awesome run on a trail, take a picture of like these awesome trees, like the tall tree that you would have seen, we'll see next year. Take a picture of a trail that you're on. Take a picture of a lake. Take a picture of a stream, a river, something that's just like beautiful, inspires you, and comment on Instagram. I am so lucky to live where I live right now. I can't believe what a beautiful place I have to run. The fact that I can be out here right now during this time is so awesome. I want you to also reach out and maybe take a picture of your parents. Thank them. You know, I have such awesome parents. I have a great mom, I have a great dad, whatever it is. I have a great grandfather, a great great grandmother, whatever that is, of somebody else, and then a friend, of a teammate, and just show your appreciation for them. Do that for 1 week. And then next Friday, just think back to this and think, how did I feel? How do I feel this week about the technology I'm on? How do I feel about the world? How do I feel about myself when I've turned the camera and things away from myself and onto others and other things? And if there's one thing that we have learned during this pandemic, is that we need that human connection. We need that human interaction. I know that right now people are struggling. I know that You're not just struggling maybe with your motivation to be out running. You're not seeing your teammates. I know we have athletes on our team that aren't allowed to run even near somebody. You're doing a lot of stuff by yourself. You're not seeing your team, that group. You haven't seen your coaches. Unfortunately, we have such strict restrictions here. There's been some kids I haven't seen since March. That's really hard. We humans need that connection, and you're not getting it by the technology that you're using. You need to get it by that reaching out and talking to people. Impatience. We do live in a world that's all about right now. You send a text, you expect you expect something right back right away. Everything we want now. And it makes us really hard. It makes it really hard for us coaches when we're starting to talk about your plan and what we envision you as a runner in your career is running. And I know for myself, I look way beyond high school, because I hope that people run well beyond that time of high school, college, as an adult, when they're my age someday. You have to look long-term, and you can't look for right now. And there was a great presentation the other night. Girls will go through that 1, 2, possibly even 3 years of like that complete plateau. And you have to be patient. You have to let things happen. And there's a great saying that a lot of times you're at the bottom of this climb, and all as you see is the peak, and you're not seeing the mountain. And if you're not paying attention to the mountain, you're not paying attention to the journey, you're going to trip on something. Enjoy where you're at. Be in that moment. One of the great quotes we heard from Jim Walmsley was, be in the mile that you're in. He's in a 100-mile race, and he's not thinking about what Placer High School looks like down in Auburn to run around that track and to finish. He's thinking about the mile that he's in. So let some of that impatience go and just think about where you're at. Now, the environment is super important when you're talking about being empathetic and having a perspective of your teammates. And we as coaches need to have that of you. We don't know what your home life is like. We don't know what your school life is like. We don't know what your relationship is like. We don't know how you feel within the team. And you have to be open as a leader and as a teammate. You have to be open to be able to talk. You have to be able to open up about yourself so that you can allow people in. And it's okay to ask for help. The greatest leaders in the world at some point, if not all the time, ask for help. I, as a coach, reach out to a lot of the other coaches that are on this call right now. And we talk about stuff that's happening. We've talked about the CIF moving the schedule. We talked about when our track schedule was canceled. We reach out to those that we know care about us, and we ask for help. All of us will do that. And so as an athlete, when a coach asks you how you're doing, they're not just asking just because they're looking for some sort of an answer. They really do care how you're doing because they really want to help you. And you as a leader need to do that with your teammates. You need to be open to have a teammate talk to you about what's really going on. And maybe it's going to go a little serious about what's happening at home or what's happening in a relationship. And care and listen, because you'll never know how far that's going to go. And you're never going to know how much that's going to mean to that person down the road. Everything about the environment that we create for our team is there to create the individual on that team. Is there to help them. And that's really important. And I hope that you understand that. And I hope that you allow your coaches and your peers and your teammates in. Allow them to get in. One thing that you're going to find is you have a lot of freshmen coming in. You have a lot of new teammates coming in. And some people you feel like you've forgotten who they are because they might have been freshmen last year and you haven't seen them since March. But new runners to the team they don't trust me. I know that. They don't trust you as teammates, and they don't trust anything because they're kind of coming in from that I've never been here perspective. You're going to have to show me something here. And they're never going to care how much you know until they know how much you care. And that is so important as a junior, a senior, as an upperclassman, when you're showing that leadership to people. If you show you care, then they're going to buy into the things that you're trying to create as a leader on that team. So make sure that you take that time to help them. The environment that you create on your team has to be safe. There cannot be judgment anywhere. No member on that team can have judgment. And we've used the word quite a bit on our team that we want to have a family. But I was in the research for doing this presentation, I think I want to change that word. I don't want to have a family, because families bicker, and there's times where family members can disappear and you don't talk to them very much. I want to be brothers and sisters. I want my team to be brothers and sisters. And I want you to think about that. You have siblings that you may bicker with. You may have siblings that you may not want to talk to. But I bet that if somebody picks on your sibling or isn't treating your sibling well, you would go to war to battle that person that does that. And that's what I want my team to be. I want them to be brothers and sisters that care enough about each other that even though they're not necessarily agreeing and getting along all the time, they care enough that they'll always have that person's back. Because when you step on that line, 7 of you, 14, whatever it is for the race, you need to know that the person to the left and the person to the right has your back. So understand the environment that everybody is in, because we all want to know that somebody cares about us. Every single person watching wants to know that somebody cares about us. Now this here is really important. Finite versus the infinite game theory. And I'm not a gamer myself, but it doesn't have to do with gaming. I'm going to define the two. An end game is a game that has set rules with a set end time. And I want you to think about baseball. There's 9 innings. At the end of 9 innings, the team with the highest score is going to win. That's an end game. There's rules that are established. There's 3 outs, there's pitches, the balk. All those rules are established. And when those two meet, 2 players go against each other in an end game, there's not conflict. An open end game, there's no rules. The end always changes. There is no set end. And the purpose of that game is for it to continue. Now, an end game going against an open end game, there's conflict where one has rules and an end and the other does not have rules and it doesn't see an end and its whole purpose is to continue. There's major conflict. And if you study what's happened, for instance, in maybe the Vietnam War, Russia and Afghanistan, us in Afghanistan, we're like trying to win these battles. We're trying to win this war where they're trying to fight for their lives. And when you think about what's happening right now, we're in a time where you have to play the infinite game. Because in cross country, we used to have an end game, the state meet. The Saturday after Thanksgiving was the state meet. Our league championship was set in October, right around October 31st. Our section meet was somewhere around mid-November. That was our end game. And a lot of times athletes think about that as their end game. When we were in track back in March, it was, I want to do this so that I can make it to this invitational. We have league finals. I want to qualify for the Masters meet, all those things. And when that got taken away by this pandemic, I saw some of my athletes say, well, I have nothing to train for anymore. And they just fell off. I could see it with their lack of logging. I could see it in their lack of motivation. People weren't around each other. They weren't checking in with each other. Our running right now and your team is in an end game. We are given a season that we think is going to start in December or January, but there's no guarantees. And I think we all can be honest about that. We hope that there's a cross-country season with a state meet at the end of March. We hope that there is a track season, but until there is something that happens pretty big with health and getting a hold of this pandemic, you have to play the infinite game. You have to wake up every morning to try to become a better leader, to try to become a better person, and to try to become a better runner. To do all those things every single day when you wake up in the morning to become better, to become better, to become better, not with, I'm going to be at the state meet in November, or I'm going to be at the state meet in March. It is strictly to become better. And if you do that, you're not going to get disappointed and have that conflict in your mind that there needs to be that end or that end game, because your running is going to continue, and it can continue long past this pandemic. This is going to end, and you're going to have the ability to be a runner again. It might be in January, which we all hope that it is. It might be in March. It might be next June, whatever that time is. And I'm not trying to be a downer here, but let's just be real. If you start now, if you struggled to this point through this whole thing and you're listening to this, if you do something better every single day, you will be better. You'll play that infinite game and you'll look back and be so happy that you did. Brush your teeth. What possibly can a monkey brushing his teeth or you brushing your teeth have anything to do with running. But it's pretty simple. Noreen Searles, Kevin's wonderful wife, better half of the Searles family, is a dental hygienist. Most of you probably go to the dentist twice a year. They clean your teeth. Their job is to clean your teeth. If that's all you did and you went back twice a year, your teeth would be falling out. You're not going to have good, healthy gums just by going to the dentist twice a year. You have to brush your teeth every single day, every morning and every night. You got to take care of them. You got to floss them. You got to brush your teeth. And there's times I'm sure you're tired, you studied late, you go to bed, you forget to brush your teeth. It happens. But the point is, you got to do it every single day. Okay? If you wanted to get a six-pack and you went to the gym once and you came home and you like lifted up your shirt and you look in the mirror and you go, where's my six-pack? I quit. It's not going to happen that way. You have to continue doing those little things every single day. And if you do it now, when we do get back to competing and do get back to racing, you're going to be better. You're going to be in better shape. And if you do those things as a leader, you're going to practice those things as a leader, you're going to do great. Now, I show you this picture because that was our team when I started coaching back in 2009. That wasn't the JV team. That wasn't just the girls team. That was the entire Vista Del Lago cross-country team. That's the Nevada Union Invite. That's it, the entire team. There might be one athlete missing when I look at that picture. 2009 was the first year that I coached at Vista Del Lago, while some of the schools that are on this call were racking up multiple NCS championships that were a long ways from catching. But that team in 2009, when I look at that picture, they started the traditions that our team has today. And our team today doesn't even realize that they do these things because of the people in that picture. A lot of the things that we do, the traditions that we do today, is because of that team. And I look now at that team, and they didn't realize it at the time, but they were playing the infinite game. They created traditions at a school that was 2 years old. We're not that old of a school, and I'm very proud of what we've accomplished, but it's because of these athletes. I look at Madeline Ann Kelly. She was a 4-time podium person at the California State meet in cross country. She later went on to be the captain of the cross country team at Harvard. I see Zach Yeager in that picture. Zach Yeager is finishing up law school right now in St. Louis and is going to be probably saving my life, hopefully very soon. And I see Chelsea over there, and Chelsea was on the phone with me literally yesterday. She has 2 kids. She's going to be buying her first house, and she's excited for that. We've come a long way, but we didn't get here overnight. We did the little things. The athletes on our team did the little things every day, starting at that team right there. And I will always cherish that picture. And I also very much cherish this picture too. That is that's me, the shorter guy with the big hair. That's Coach Martin, Coach Jack Martin, who I personally think was one of the all-time greatest high school coaches, and maybe the reason that I coach today. I've spoken about him in the past. He was a great, great coach, second father to me. But more importantly, I wanted to share the person to the other side. That's Scott Hill. Scott Hill was a senior. In this picture, I was a junior. And as he went into his senior year, he was our number 1 runner. He ran under 9:12, I want to say, for 2 miles, which is probably right around 9:09, 9:10 for 3,200. We were 2 mile back then. He later went on to compete at Cal State Hayward, which is now Cal State East Bay. But Scott was a leader. And the reason that I got better in my junior year was because Scott used to call me up and he said, hey, I'm going to be by your house. You want to go for a run at 6 o'clock? And we'll go. He showed me how to lead, not just by example, but by caring. He was always talking to me, always telling me how good I was going to get when he left and how I was going to be a great number 1 guy when he graduated and moved on. He had great leaders before him. The Mission San Jose teams had great leaders that taught the leaders, that taught the leaders, that taught the leaders. And that's what I want you guys all to do, is to be that type of a leader that continues to teach the athletes on your team to be great leaders. Coach Hunt. Kevin Searles said, he had a vision that he wanted to educate. And we're here tonight during a pandemic. because Coach Hunt in 1970 something decided that he wanted to educate high school kids. And I couldn't end this without thanking Coach Hunt. And I'm going to sign it off right there. Sorry, Kev, I can't talk. Thanks, Kevin.
Thank you, Robert. Thank you, Kevin. Truly fitting way to finish up our camp with a tribute to Coach Hunt, a man that brought all of us together. So we very much appreciate that recognition. If folks in the audience have questions about Robert's presentation, now's the time to open up that Q&A. Robert, I had a question. How do you, what kind of really practical things do you use to remind your athletes about staying positive, about caring for teammates, about, playing the infinite game? When we talk about goal setting, I often remind the kids that it's important that they post their goals, right? That they share their goals, that there's something tangible like a note on a mirror, right? Or, something in their training log. Do you use any kind of practical reminders for redirecting kids to remember, what their responsibility is for culture?
Yeah, we try to talk about mindset more, and there's times I fall off of it, but I really try to go to the process. I really want their goals to be process oriented. I want them to think about, how many days a week did they do their core? How many days a week did they do their rope stretching, their rolling? And I really want them to focus on those process goals, because those end goals, it's a lot of that stuff's out of our control, as we're learning right now. And so that's the one thing I really am going to have to focus on even more through the fall is process goals. And you have to be happy before you can be successful. Success doesn't bring the happiness. You have to be happy, and then the success comes. And so we really try to talk about that a lot.
And do you guys, I know Marie talked about her team having that mantra, love your teammates, LYT, right? Something that they shout to each other that kind of redirects, reminds them of why they're all there. Other teams, maybe have something in their team cheer. Maybe it's a slogan on a t-shirt. Do you guys have any of those things that you use?
Yeah, and I think this goes back to that 2009 team. We've let the athletes have their team meetings to create those mantras and goals. And I mean, that goes back to 2009. And even to last year, our girls and guys would find time, our captains would pull the team aside, all the guys aside, or all the girls aside, just to have that conversation and talk about, what is it that we're going to be thinking about or going after, and what are we going to do to dedicate ourselves to do those little things to do in the process. So we've kind of I've tried to lead the leaders to do those meetings, and they've done great. And so it just kind of continues through the years.
Yeah. I mean, that's awesome when you set up that structure, and then the athletes take it over, right? And use that format that they've learned. I think that's really powerful. Dylan Gunn asks, how do you, and I think this is coming from the perspective, if you're somebody who's trying to be a leader, how do you redirect or, intervene when you've got, maybe one teammate that's disrupting that atmosphere, that culture that you're trying to maintain?
Yeah, that's a great question, because every team's going to have those situations, and the great lesson that if you could take it from cross country, because you're going to be able to use it for life, you try to have that conversation from a place of, from a humble place with that person. Don't come at it from a very aggressive place. Come at from a very humble place that here, we get the sense that you are not in line with what we're trying to achieve. And these are some of the things that we may have noticed. Ask the question, is something going on? Give that person the opportunity to, not get defensive and talk to you about it. But there really may be times that if they're going to be defensive, they're not going to listen to you, then it's probably okay to bring in a coach, because it could be an issue that's even more serious that a coach or an adult needs to get involved with. And we've had those cases as well. So, you try to approach it from a humble place. And if you don't get anywhere, the coach should hopefully come at it from the same place and be able to find out more about what's really going on. You can't just assume that they just don't like the team or they don't want to be great, because sometimes we find that there's something really serious going on in their lives that they need help through. And so you can help somebody just by approaching them and talking to them. And you never know what people are going through in their personal lives outside of the team.
Yeah. And I think that's, I mentioned that in my talk, how much we miss these opportunities at camp where we're kind of taken out of the day-to-day hustle and bustle. We can sit down at a table and, talk to our kids in small groups and, share runs and kind of relax and open up to each other. So I think it's, it's important as coaches that we all try to find opportunities for that, whether it's over a Zoom session or, if you have the option, these small group training sessions. I think a lot of coaches, myself included, are finding that we can't just use that time to train, that we've got to figure out a way to use some of that time to just socially connect. So, Xander, Simone, happy birthday. Thank you for attending. How do you become the best coach you can be? Is his question.
I want to just give a shout out to every single coach that's on this call. I know that there's some Saturdays that I haven't been able to be on, that coaches are getting together, but good coaches and all the coaches that go to camp and all the coaches that are on this seminar right here, they're just trying to learn and they're trying to become better. They have conversations amongst themselves or with each other, basically, about how to become a better coach. And I think coaching, I think work, I think school, everything in life is you just try to get better every single day. And there are times where I go back from leave practice and Coach Liz, my better half, she'll remind me that I probably screwed something up on how I handled the situation. So there is no perfect coach, so don't expect them to be perfect, but we do work hard to try to become better every day. And I think just like anything, it has to come from a place of caring and empathy. And if you come from that place, whether you're a coach, whether you're a parent, whether you're a friend, whatever it is, I think that makes you learn to become better.
What are some of the traditions that Vista Del Lago athletes have that to remind each other that they care about each other? So specifically talking about, caring for each other. Are there any traditions?
Yeah, we have Flag Short Friday, where now thanks to BOA, or BOA, there's so many different flag shorts. It's awesome to see the Flag Short Friday. It used to be just kind of a guys thing, just like 3 of our guys were doing it. And then that kind of spread amongst the guys team, then it spread amongst the girls team. And so Friday is just kind of a cool thing. In 2000,
flame shorts beat flags every day, Robert. Just remember that.
Flag shorts always win. Our girls team had started off the tradition of making T-shirts back in 2009 for the state meet. I think it's probably because we had no money for the budget back then. So everybody had these awesome, sweatsuits, and Palos Verdes was up there with all their matching stuff. And we all kind of like, how do we do that? But in 2009, they started making shirts. So the night of the section meet now, our boys team does their thing. And I mean, they all do like a pizza night together, and then boys go off and make shirts. The girls make shirts. So the flag shorts, and we've had headbands. I mean, things kind of come and go with each group. But the flag shorts is kind of sticking through. And I think anything you can do to be united, whether it's funky shoes. I think somebody showed that on one of the presentations the other night, the red high tops, flag shorts, just those things that are yours, that you make it yours and unite the group. I think anything like that's awesome.
Yeah. There was a team back 10, 12 years ago that their tradition was dyeing their hair purple. The state meet tried to stop them from doing that, but
So our team, our girls actually did color my hair pink, because that was the deal. They said, if we win state, well, can we color your hair pink? And as the color was like rolling off because it wasn't sticking, one of them lovely just kind of said in loving way, your hair is too gray for the color to stick. So, but I did have kind of pink highlights for a few weeks.